All right, what is up, Utah fans? This is Joseph back with the Utah Utes Football Digest. And today we're going to be talking about unleashing Nate Johnson 2.0. And I'm sure a lot of people are wondering what that means. What am I trying to get at? What it is, guys, is I want to take a look at what Nate Johnson has done so far. Really take a look at it. How has he been performing? What has he done to date? And who has he played, right? I think a lot of people are forgetting just how good the schedule we played so far actually is. Not all of it, but a lot of it. And then the other thing I want to look at is how we get him there. What type of plays does he do well at? Where does he succeed? And this is going to be a deep analysis. I'm not just going to say stuff that has, no information behind it. I'm actually going to give you guys some data that I think you'll like a lot that'll show you how we get Nate Johnson to take that next step. I hope you guys appreciate it. Please make sure you like the video if you guys appreciate the content. That'll help get it out to more Utah fans, and just let me know this is what you guys like. Also, comment down below. What do you guys think? Do you agree with my assessment? And I hope whatever you say, you got some data to back it up. If you don't agree with my assessment, let me know what you think would get Nate Johnson to take that next step, take it to the next level. Also, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. We're putting out Utah Utes football content basically every single day. So if that's what you're into, this is a cool place to be. And make sure you guys share the video. If you have a friend or a Facebook page where you like to share stuff, please share it. Let's go ahead and dive in. Let's talk about how we get Nate Johnson to take that next step. All right, and the first thing I'm going to want us to take a look at, guys, is going to be the opponent's points per game for the teams that Nate Johnson has played. So we're just basically the point of the exercise is just to get an idea before we start breaking down what he's done. I want to get an idea of who he's played. So how justified or unjustified are these numbers? So let's take a look here. So points per game defensively. He's played UCLA. That was his first game against an FBS team as a starter. Their average points per game allowed is 10.3, which is extremely good. They're a top 10 defense so far in college football. They looked really nasty, and they were definitely a tough go for Utah. The other team is going to be Florida. Now, they're only allowing 15.7 points per game, and they're the number 23 team in points per game in the country. So those were the two really good teams he played. You're also going to have Weber State, which is a top 10 FCS team, but I'd still say you expect them to look good against that team, even though they're not like a trash FCS team. They're pretty good for an FCS team. And then we also have Baylor. All right. Baylor here. Now, Baylor is allowing 33.3 points per game. They're 101 in the country. They're not a very good defense, but that's kind of what you'd expect, right, from Baylor. And the next thing I want to look at is going to be the average passer rating allowed per team. So let's take a look at what the passer ratings allowed were. For UCLA, it was 109.7. Just to make sure you guys are aware, passer rating is different than QBR. It's a different number. Um, Basically, this is just QBR is when you adjust for everything, and it's a little more intense and scrutinized, whereas passer rating is a little more just looking at the numbers and seeing how they did. So UCLA, number 24 in the country for passer rating allowed. Florida is number 55 in the country for passer rating allowed. So UCLA up towards the cream of the crop in passer rating allowed. Florida, upper middle, so a little above average there. And then towards the bottom, you've got Baylor. Where is Baylor? Oh, right here at 108. So they're towards the bottom. And you'd expect Nate to do well against Baylor, and that's kind of what he did. We'll break it down in a minute, but that's what Nate did, and I just wanted to show you guys those numbers so we have something to reference as we keep going here. So that's how Nate has. So those are the teams Nate has played and how those teams have fared so far in the season. So overall, a pretty good schedule he's gone up against. All right, now let's just take a look at Nate Johnson's raw numbers against these teams. We won't go too in depth, but just to look at it. So you've got Nate Johnson on the season, 31 completions on 49 attempts for 398 total yards. That's a completion percentage of 63.3%. 2 touchdowns on that, and he has not thrown any interceptions. Rushing, 47 carries, 150 yards, 3.2 yards a carry, and 3 touchdowns. So total of 5 touchdowns, including passing and running the ball. So I think it's pretty clear that UCLA was Nate Johnson's worst game where he actually got a decent sample size. And when you look at that, guys, it makes sense. We just broke down the numbers. They were a top 10 defense in points per game, and they were a top 25 defense in passer rating allowed. So this is the passer rating number right here. So Nate Johnson actually was above average against UCLA, which means they must have been slaughtering the other teams they were playing. So Nate Johnson hasn't looked terrible this year. He's done pretty well. You look at Weber. You'd expect a little more. That was the one game where I'd say I'm a little disappointed, but I also think he was just working on running the offense and just trying to do a better job of being a starter and not making mistakes. And I think you could tell when you watched it. And he definitely had more like big plays there than you usually see from him. Like right here, a 49-yard pass. Baylor was the best game that I saw, where he had a really good QBR of 72.2, passer rating 184.1. Technically, here it shows Florida as his best QBR, but I'd say it was, for my money, it was the Baylor game where he really, really looked good. Small sample size, though, against Baylor. So this is the sample size we have, but I'd say, guys, when you look at this, what I'm trying to show you guys, there's still a lot of hope for how the rest of the season goes while Nate Johnson is the starting quarterback, right? He's played some tough competition, and in the Baylor game, when he finally got to get in there and throw, when Ludwig decided to let him throw, he was good to go. He was looking awesome. And yes, that was the lower end defense he's played, but against the defense where you'd expect him to look good, he looked good. That's why I'm pointing that out. And against the defense like UCLA, where you expect him to have a tough go, he had a tough go and did better than every other quarterback that's played him, or than the average quarterback that's played him. So that's why I wanted to break that down. And in a second here, we're going to move into how you get Nate Johnson firing on all cylinders moving forward. What do you need to do? All right, guys. Now we're going to do the deep dive. We're going to talk about what we need to do to unleash Nate Johnson 2.0. The only reason I went over all that information before about who he's played, how he's done so far, is just to show you guys he's not doing terrible right now, right? It's not a terrible performance. They need to let him cook a little bit. They need to let him get loose. It's not all great. There's some bad moments for Nate Johnson, but it's not like he's doing terrible. He's doing a decent job right now. And I think with the right adjustments, he could be looking awesome this year. Really, it could be, because really what we want is, we don't want to bring in a transfer guy and roll the dice on that guy next year. We want Nate Johnson to look awesome this year, right? And we want him to be our clear guy when Cam Rising leaves this year. So let's go ahead and talk about it. So the first numbers we're going to be looking at is going to be how he does under pressure. The first thing that's a really good sign, guys, and this is expected. You expect this to be the case, but he does really well with the clean pocket. And almost every quarterback does, but this is a good sign of whether or not there's a critical problem. And if you got a guy doing well with the clean pocket, that's a good sign, right? 24 completions on 36 attempts, 66.7 completion percentage. That's awesome. You got to love that. And he's grading out at a 79.1 with an 80.1 passing grade for PFF when the pocket is clean. I mean, that's always important, and you can never expect clean pockets all the time, but you got to like what you're seeing there. And what I love here is when he's being blitzed, it's not that bad, right? He's 66. Now, a lot of quarterbacks do decent when they're getting blitzed. But these are just good check boxes to have, that he's when he gets blitzed, he's able to find someone, and when he's kept clean, he looks just fine. Now the problem is under pressure, he's at a 43.2 grade, 53.8% completions on the 26 drop backs he's had. And if you look at that, it's 26 drop backs, and he's only thrown the ball 13 times when he gets pressured. And I think this is evident if you guys are, keeping an eye on things when you watch the game. When he's pressured, he freaks out a little bit and he does not throw the ball. 50% of the time is what you just saw there. When he gets pressured, it just goes bad, right? It does not go well. And he's 2 turnover worthy plays when he gets pressured, which means that should be an interception or it's a fumble that should be a turnover, stuff like that. Those are turnover worthy plays. So keeping him clean. And the cool thing is when he gets blitzed, he can find the open guy pretty well. So I think that what you're going to be hoping for is when they rush for, when Oregon State or any other team we go up against in the coming weeks rushes for, that our O line holds up. And if they do and give him, 3-4 seconds of time, maybe 4 is a little much, but 2.5, 3 seconds of time to find his open man, he should be good to go and has the ability to find guys in the pockets clean. And if they do blitz, he has the ability to find the matchups where he can get a guy open off the blitz. So that's a good sign. So that's how he does under pressure. All right, guys, and this next one is going to be how Nate Johnson does in different concepts. And this is pretty evident. So if he is throwing the ball with play action, he has a 91.3 grade and an 86.7 completion percentage. Those are really, really good numbers. And considering how much teams are stacking the box with 7, 8 guys in there every single play, you got to imagine that we should be able to do this. We are running the ball pretty well. I am a little confused when I look at this number, why we're not getting play action more. So he's at 18 dropbacks in play action, and he's gotten 178 yards off 18 dropbacks. So that means if he does a play action pass or just a drop back, doesn't whether he gets rid of the ball or not, he's going to average about 10 yards a play, right? And it says yards per attempt is 11.9. So when he actually does throw it, it's even higher, right? You're looking at this 13 for 15 and 18 dropbacks, guys. And why I think this is important to look at is his total numbers are listed down here, right? So he's had 64 dropbacks. Now, 18 is only 28% of 64. And what that means is that we're not utilizing this. Because look at it. When you look at his number here, 178 out of his 398 passing yards, well, that's 44.7% of his yards are coming off play action, but only 28% of his snaps are coming off play action. What does that tell you? We need to run play action more. It's pretty simple and it's really clear. When he's not running play action, his grade's bad, his completion percentage is bad. When he is, he looks elite, dude. It's only 18 dropbacks, but still, that is enough of a sample size to tell you at least start doing it more. I don't really get it at all why such a good running team would not want to run more play action. Not to mention, you get him out in space, you get to let him use his legs, right? Roll out a little bit, that sort of deal. I mean, do a play action rollout, stuff like that, dude. I have no idea why we're not doing more, but getting him to do more play action passes is going to be a key. I want to keep an eye on that as we head into the coming weeks if Nate Johnson continues to be the starter. All right, guys, and this next one is going to be looking at the different passing depths for Nate Johnson. So where he likes to throw it, how far he likes to throw it, and where he does well throwing the ball. So take a look here. So deep shots, he's only thrown 60 deep shots, but he's only actually completed one of them. So pretty rough grade there. 16.7 completion percentage, pretty rough. But I would also say it's such a small sample size. You want to take a few more deep shots before you really know. And none of this stuff is going to have a crazy big sample size, but it should give us an idea of where we're probably going to want to go with Nate moving forward, where we're going to want to give him more options throwing the ball or make his first read throwing the ball. The key for me is the medium, 10 to 19. So 10 to 19 yards, he grades out at a 93.6, which is ridiculously good. 9 for 10, 90% completion percentage. I mean, that's nuts. Big time throws. He has one big time throw. Big time throw means it should be a touchdown. That's really good to see. I think it's clear that you want to get him mid-range throws. That's where he thrives. And surprisingly, short throws are not where he's doing super well. The completion percentage isn't terrible, but it's not good either. You look at this here, it's only 100 of his yards are on short throws. Almost 50% of his yards are on medium throws. You got one touchdown on the short throws, but not great. I mean, we'll break it down here. Let's dive in deeper. So this is where I think something really peculiar starts to play out. Is almost across the board, guys. Nate Johnson does really well throwing to the left side. So take a look here. On deep passes up here, 63.4 grade, a good chunk better than throwing to the center and a way better than throwing to the right. This is what you're going to see as we break this down. He does decent throwing to the center, he does better throwing to the left, and he does pretty rough throwing to the right, except in some situations when he's okay throwing to the right. But you look at this, guys. If he has to throw deep right, it's a no-go, right? It's pretty rough. Intermediate, which is the medium passing we talked about, that's 91.1 grade. That's awesome. On these intermediate throws, center and left, he's 8 for 9. That's really good. And then 1 for 1 throwing to the right, 72.6 grade. So just in general, we want him throwing to the left side. I know that sounds real peculiar, guys, but the more things we can look into to get him comfortable and find out where he's messing up, the better. And then short passes, guys. When he's throwing short left, it goes really well. When he's throwing short right or short center, it goes really poorly. And then just in general, throwing behind the line of scrimmage, those are like screens and stuff. And I'm sure you guys noticed last week against UCLA that is not his game. He struggles with that for some reason. And you got a sample size of 13 throws, and it's just not working out. So, I mean, maybe you don't want to run too many screens with this guy. So that's that. It's kind of breaking it down for Nate Johnson. All right, guys. So that is a breakdown on how to unleash Nate Johnson 2.0. Just kind of my final thoughts on how I like just summarizing all the information we just went over. Get the guy going off play action. He seems to do super well off play action, right? It is a key for him. We've seen the data that shows when the pocket's clean or when he has guys open off the blitz, he can make the throws. It's not like he's a terrible quarterback. What he But he definitely has certain things that he likes to throw off. So throw off play action. We run the ball so much. They stack the box against us so much. Why aren't we doing more play action to get this guy the looks that he likes? I mean, that seems to be where he's most comfortable. Let's give it to him. And then when he's doing it, have him look into the center and left. Make the routes go there. For sure, you can't just go completely those directions, but do what you can to accommodate that and give him looks to the center and to the left and focus on the intermediate range. Even more than focusing center left, focus intermediate range where he can get those 10 to 19 yard throws, do play action rollouts, get him on the move, get him. I think it's clear what we need to do with Nate Johnson to have him take those next steps. And I think it really fits into our offensive philosophy to get that done. I think there's a couple things that could play into that. Say Tawa Laumea, right? I think that could be a reason that he likes to throw to the left because when he's looking to the right, that means Spencer Fano's the main guy pass blocking for him. And maybe he doesn't have a ton of trust there. It's a freshman left tackle, right? No shots at Spencer. I'm just being real. And say Tawa Laumea grades out better. So I would say get him looking to the left. That's what I'm going to go over. That's about it, guys. Also, keep the pocket clean. You know he can do it. Just keep it clean. That's about it. Make sure you guys like the video. I hope this guy gave you guys some information about what Nate Johnson is capable of and where we can focus more to get him better and give him better opportunities. please comment down below if you guys found this information valuable or what you guys, took from that data. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel, share the video. I'm out of here. Go Utes.